Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we've got a tip courtesy of Universal Audio in one of their newsletters that I wanted to give you some audio examples of on using reverb on drum overheads. What it does is gives you some of that sort of length and warmth. If your drums are recorded in a small space, let's say you're in a basement or a small bedroom, or you get tracks to mix that sound that way, and you want it to sound like it's in a bigger space, or it was recorded in more of like a studio environment with more depth, this is a really easy way to do it by inserting this reverb right on the overhead channel, not on a separate send like we would normally do. So before we hear what it sounds like, I have this reverb capital chambers bypassed right now. Here's what the drums sound like without the reverb on the overheads. So small, dry, tight space. I'm going to engage the plugin and go through the controls really quickly. First of all, everything on the top panel here, chamber choice, mic choice, all default settings. We don't change anything right there. We're going to have the decay set at around 2 o'clock, just past that midpoint. In the EQ section, we're going to boost that filter up pretty high, around 2 o'clock as well. That gets rid of any muddiness that we don't want in there. So anything like where the kick drum's exciting the room too much, that kind of cuts that out. To get rid of some boxiness, we get a little scoop in the mids here at 500 Hertz, just a little dip right there. We set that mix to just past the 15% mark, and we make sure this wet solo is off. That's pretty much it for controls. And now the drums sound like this with capital chambers on the overhead track. So now I'm going to bypass it on and off as it plays, starting with it on. Now I had the overhead track boosted up pretty high there. If I bring that overhead track down a little bit, more like what I'd have in the actual mix, here's the sound we get. And again with it off. That little subtle depth is really nice, bringing that out in the mix, making it sound like it's more in a studio space rather than a small room. The overheads by themselves sound like this without it on. And with it on. So just having it inserted on the drum overhead track really gives that sense of space. Of course, if you don't have capital chambers, which I should say is also available natively now, so you don't have to run it off an Apollo system or on UAD hardware, you can always just use another reverb. Try any reverb, go for that chamber, set the EQ up in a similar way, set that mix down just past 15% or so, sort of a medium decay chamber, and you can achieve really similar results with just a stock reverb. So there we have it. A simple tip for adding depth to your drums, courtesy of UAD, using capital chambers on your drum overhead track. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.